Welcome back to the show, everyone. So, Sony, they are going on a bit of an acquisitions spree. We have got it confirmed they have purchased Housemarque, the developer of Returnal, and also Nixxes. Now, Nixxes are a porting house that, well, if you played, say, Deus Ex Human Revolution, which was a game that had a surprisingly excellent PC port, you'll know that Nixxes are really, really, really good. And also, Sony are being rumored to have purchased Bluepoint, which of course are the developers of the Dark Souls remaster. So all this stuff is fairly interesting indeed. The first thing, of course, to cover though is Nixxes, because I think this means quite a bit to Sony's overall strategy. So they're buying a lot, and another thing with Nixxes, of course, is they specialize in PC ports. Now, Sony have recently been putting PlayStation titles onto PC. Days Gone was actually a big success in PC. Same goes for Horizon Zero Dawn. Death Stranding was also on PC. Of course, though, Horizon and Days Gone did have launch issues, so it seems like it's very much something Sony did not have a lot of in-house experience at doing. Now, they have just went and purchased Nixxes, a PC porting specialist who, of course, have worked with Square Enix and a lot of things, most recently on Marvel's The Avengers. So that essentially is that for this little bit. Let's dive in, Matt. Let's dive into the Nixxes slice of this story before we talk about Housemarque. Because I think this is interesting and actually pretty damn big. I mean, I'm primarily a PC gamer. You're also the same most of the time. I think this will mean a lot for us and our audience. If we look at, this is an article by Tom Ivan of VGC. Look at this call out. Jim Ryan says further ports are the further ports are a fairly straightforward decision for us to make. I mean, yeah, now that they have Nixxes, or Nixxes, whatever way you choose to pronounce it. Now, of course, we've covered this story before. I remember it was back in June, Herman Hulst said that they were still early planning in PC, and basically very much saying that, look, it is PlayStation first, stuff's always going to be coming to PlayStation first. A lot of us were just thinking, yeah, well, at least us PC people will eventually get a port. Kind of feels a bit weird they're doing the double dip thing. But we were broadly happy because it did mean more access for games. And I think this is just them doubling down on that. I think they've realized that, they sell PlayStations at a loss so that they can sell games on the PlayStations to make money. Well, as much as it's great for them to do that and to take their 30% of everything that is sold in that store, they can give up, well, eventually what would be a 20% cut because of the discounts that Steam gives depending on sales volume. But I think they've realized, yeah, okay, we'll get all of the sales we can out of PlayStation. That's where we'll make the most amount of money per sale and where we've got maximum control over, the pricing. It's still the best conversion rate and all that stuff. But after that, sure, we'll give up 20% or maybe 12% on Epic. And we will just sell a lot of games. Because it turns out it was always the games that they were making money on anyway, not the hardware.
This is completely a no-brainer decision because it's selling unsold stock, ostensibly. They're going, well, we've got a stack of Horizon Zero Dawn, but everyone on PS, on the Sony platform, has a copy of it. So they're not going to sell them anymore. Might as well, throw it out to PC. But because it's so far down the line, I don't think they will, imagine or expect to take a loss on the actual PlayStation copies. And that's what I think is the important part, is the time difference between them. Because, they haven't actually, I don't think they've launched a full game on PS5 that we expect to see on PC. So we haven't seen the actual real world data for PC gamers knowing that PlayStation properties will come to PC cannibalizes PS5 sales.
Yeah.
But if you look at any of the other metrics or any of what other companies have reported in terms of the kind of double dipping thing, it's never seemed to cause any problems.
No.
Because even Xbox turn around and say, well, Game Pass hasn't been doing any damage to our sales. In fact, it's increased it. You're like, how does that make sense? But I guess it's just the word of mouth. The people who wouldn't buy a PS5 are like, oh, Horizon, I wanted to play that. Gimme.
Yeah, and another part of this too. Whenever a game comes out new in PlayStation, it's at full RRP. And they generally stay like that for a long time. Now, whenever that comes out again in PC, they're not going to sell it at a discount. They're going to sell it at full price again. So they basically get 2 full price releases out of a whole bunch of their games. Now, what will be interesting is I think there'll be some games where, say Ratchet. not like if you were running games off, let's just say a 2 terabyte 7200 RPM drive, I mean, you're not going to be able to play Rift Apart unless Nixxes went in and did some big business and some real heavy work to, I guess, get that to work without the SSD, like proprietary loading tech that the PS5 has got. But in terms of no-brainers, it's like, take the PlayStation Plus collection. I mean, you could just port that to PC and print money. How many PC gamers probably just want to go play a fun action-adventure series of games and would absolutely buy a Uncharted 4-pack or Uncharted 4 for quite a bit of money? I mean, quite a few.
It's really funny that I was thinking, well, I mean, why would they go for the PlayStation one? And you're like, well, obviously, because they're like the best games generally like accepted by the market. They are the most premium titles. But also, like on PC, if you're looking at AAA, you're kind of looking at a landscape for PC that is currently marred by all this adventure stuff looking a bit worse and weird. Like, I mean, are you going to play an Uncharted or are you going to play something like a Ubisoft game? And an Ubisoft game obviously has all the live service has built in. It has those kind of quirks that you wouldn't get from a first party big platform game.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla and being struck with how at the start it felt like it was trying to be a little bit like a Sony first party, and how it was doing its narrative and stuff. But then as soon as it got into the actual main video game bit, suddenly Valhalla felt so budget in comparison to the other games that I've been playing recently, which did just happen to be Ghost of Tsushima, where there was just no comparison. So it was quite wild. So I think that's basically it for that acquisition. So I think the next thing for us to cover then is Sony have acquired Housemarque and potentially Bluepoint, though we're not 100% sure on Bluepoint. So to get you guys quickly up to speed here, Housemarque have done many games over the past. Lots of like 2D sort of, fun stuff like, was it Resogun?
Resogun, Next Machina, and Superstar Dust Ultra are like the ones they're really known for. And all of those games have their quirks, but they are fantastic arcade games. Yep. They are absolutely like top class to sit down and play with your controller, which obviously you see in Returnal. Yeah,
Returnal, I think, a fantastic game that also does have its quirks. But of course, Returnal came out. It was a humongous success. I think very interesting to me is the scope of Returnal as a game, the quantity of content that it has, versus its positioning as a fully priced Sony exclusive, which I did think was a little bit much, but undoubtedly it has been a massive success. So they have purchased them. Now, some of the, I guess, prior content here is, Sony have talked about being open to more acquisitions. I think the overall theme of today's video is that Sony are now doing those acquisitions and that is overall quite big. Now for Housemarque, they've had a long history with Sony, so this is a very natural acquisition target, especially since really not the surprise, I suppose maybe the surprise hit of the PS5, because Ratchet & Clank, we always knew that would do well. Right? Demon's Souls, we always knew that would do well. But Returnal is flat out new IP and basically an entirely new type of game for that studio to do, yet they have managed to actually stand up alongside all of those companies that you generally think of as being the Sony blockbuster first parties. So this basically means that Sony Interactive Entertainment is now one big, well not big, they're 80 people, but one highly capable studio stronger. And then also there are rumors for Bluepoint. So that is essentially what you need to know about this story.
Yeah.
I think as for what this means for us as gamers, it's honestly pretty damn simple. Why do you buy a studio? Oh, so they can make games for you.
Yeah.
Stunning analysis.
Yeah, there is one small thing that's not actually in this document, which is the Bluepoint stuff was kind of soft deconfirmed by them whenever they updated their Twitter profile to say they're a fully independent studio. So it's kind of like a soft deconfirm, but at the same time you have to wonder, because the actual the way the rumors came around that they were picking up Bluepoint was because PlayStation Japan just tweeted the announcement for Housemarque, the image, but with Bluepoint's logo, and you have to wonder, why was that made? Is it are their PR actually so advanced they've got stuff planned ahead of time for ages, even if it doesn't go through yet? Or is it literally just they haven't announced that yet, and Bluepoint are kind of saying, not yet, with their update, because there is Demon Souls art in that image as well. Like that shows you can actually see it there if you look at the middle of Bluepoint's logo. You'll see Celine from Returnal beside the Demon Souls shot.
Yeah.
So it's very much either PR over prep, or Sony think this is a done deal and are just waiting to like have Bluepoint sign the dotted line.
I mean, if so, then that would be a very strange thing to do mid-negotiation, for sure.
That's why I think Bluepoint updating their Twitter might be them just going, we can negotiate better terms if we kind of play a little bit silly here.
That would be so spicy. You do wonder how much of an overlap would they have with Nixxes?
Very little.
Very
I
little?
think
Okay.
In terms of expertise, probably quite a lot. But also, I don't think Bluepoint have made anything that's hit PC in a long time.
Right.
If ever. I can't remember their entire backlog, but Bluepoint are very much like everything they've done for the past long time has been Sony games. So they are like, that's why no one's surprised by this. Everyone's like, well,
yeah, they'd be a very natural acquisition target, given like, was it the Shadow of the Colossus remaster?
Shadow of the Colossus, I believe they did the Echo stuff as well. And then Demon Souls, which is, that was a really, really close working relationship to get Demon Souls to where it was. And that's weird because Bluepoint aren't a Japanese studio, and they worked so closely with Sony Japan and with FromSoft. And then you could even see, like, as soon as everyone saw that logo, you could imagine people going, Bloodborne, please, where's Bloodborne? Because obviously that's clearly a next step from Demon Souls.
That would get me very, very excited. And it doesn't even have to happen via an acquisition.
Yeah.
It's a fairly big thing. But yes, just if you can get a FromSoft game design, but perhaps the software engineering of a company that's not FromSoft. Because, I mean, a lot of people who are very experienced in that genre would look at Bloodborne and say, this is a fantastic game, but the frame timings are such an atrocity that, it routinely has technical problems that get in the way of gameplay. Now, if you had Bluepoint do what they did to Demon Souls, to Bloodborne, I mean, you would be looking at like maybe one of the best games in a decade or whatever, in my view, because as much as Bloodborne is a fantastic game, it is humongously hurt by its technical issues. So that would be extremely exciting, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's more coming here. It is just really weird that it happened that way with this tweet from Sony Japan.
Yeah, I mean, with Sony Japan seemingly being kind of out of the loop in a way, you can kind of imagine how this problem would crop up.
Yeah,
kind of from internal miscommunications. Now that obviously Sony America or PlayStation America are largely leading the charge there, but it's it's kind of funny, but at the same time, like, it's hard to overstate how unbelievable Sony's first party is, especially for a player like me who likes action games and arcadey stuff significantly more than I think the Uncharted's. Like, I really don't care about those sort of super narrative focused, like heavy movie games. I couldn't care less for. But the idea that they were like, right, like, it feels like all of Herman Hulst's like talking about how dedicated they are to loads of different games and like widening their array of what they produce actually feels real when they're going, Housemarque, one in.
Yeah, we had a severe worry that they were focusing very much on those blockbuster games, and that they had seen this very, like, you could almost say, Western, we want to be cinema vibe games, where, where your Last of Us Part 2s end up coming from, and maybe we were a bit worried that, like, for people who really just care about, not just, but care about the gameplay side of video games, that Sony would maybe be wandering away from that. And they had made, at that time, so many questionable decisions. They had sidelined a bunch of stuff, with Japan, that there was just lots of legitimate reasons to be worried. I mean, them going deep in this it is good to me.
Yeah, I would still definitely, personally, I would tiptoe around this in a big way, because I wouldn't trust, like, especially with what Jim Ryan's been saying recently and how they've kind of been going back on what they're saying, like, as we've covered, they do what's most appropriate for them at the time. I definitely wouldn't throw them or trust them as far as I would throw them.
No.
But at the same time, if they're willing to do this, then I can see a world where, maybe all of the big narrative movie games are sitting around the table, and maybe I'm like darting under the table for scraps from like really action focused oriented like gameplay games. But the fact that they're actually still putting some effort, even if it feels kind of second class effort in a slight sense, it's still Sony going, this is a PlayStation studio. We are definitely going to be giving these guys like almost complete free reign and a big stack of cash to do whatever will work for us. And if it works,
I think on that, then our final little bit, which, I don't even think it's worth or breaking this into like a rapid fire news breakdown because it's not much to talk about, but on the topic of them getting a stack of cash and stuff, there is Andy Robinson did a interview of, via VGC, and to just give you the TLDR of things, basically Housemarque have said that they are going to be doing bigger and better games following this acquisition, that Returnal was a stepping stone, and that future titles will be more ambitious, and that they are currently taking a break following Returnal, which means that they are hiring and expanding. So there could be a bit of a worry here if you really like their 2D stuff. Now, they did say, we still love arcade, we still love smaller games as well, who knows? Maybe 26 years in the future, we'll do one of those, we'll do more of those as well. But that really depends on how successful we're able to build ourselves with the types of experiences that Returnal is representing. So I think what we're getting here is a little bit, we're getting their DNA and their history. But it's got to look and feel like a big Sony game.
Yeah, that's actually where most of my fear around that is, because it depends on what Returnal represents to them, or what it represents to, I believe that's a studio lead or director.
Yeah.
If that means all of the horror elements, all of like the storytelling stuff that I personally think was well executed, but sort of fell a bit flat for me experience-wise, and I'd rather they spent a bunch of time on the, on adding more content to the game that way, in terms of like gameplay, like extra levels instead of the way they structured them, which was smart asset reuse and stuff, but wasn't super ideal for like the feel of the game.
Did it perhaps feel like it was an 80-person team making a big AAA game?
Yeah, so it's that thing where if they're going to focus on the storytelling elements more and let some of that fall by the wayside, I'll be personally upset. But also it's Housemarque, so I don't expect them to. I expect them to try to at least keep that blend that felt really good.
Yeah. Yep. So overall, it's interesting stuff. If you like gameplay-oriented games and PlayStation, and I think maybe you were very worried that it was turning into, we want to be cinema, the console, I think there's good news there. And if you're a PC gamer, you just want a bit more variety in your library, I mean, great news. And this probably also means whenever Horizon Forbidden West comes to PC, Nixxes will be the people who are porting it, which probably means it won't be a shit show on day one, which is precisely what we want. So while Sony and Microsoft are going for decidedly different strategies, and it feels like, as per what you said about Jim Ryan being very, we'll do what makes sense for us at the time, perhaps Microsoft are winning via strategy, whereas Sony are winning via kind of tactics and just doing the very sensible thing in the right now, but maybe not with as good of an overall future direction. I think we're just seeing both companies essentially win via doing pretty damn different things. But it's all in a way that's going to lead to more games and better quality for consumers. So I'm pretty happy with the way this competition's playing out.
Same. I'm with every passing couple of months, I'm getting more and more excited for like the immediate and like maybe the next like 2 to 5 years of games. I think there's a lot of lessons that have been learned from the past while that have actually finally been learned. So it's just a matter of how much of the incredible quality that we come to expect can we skim off the top while completely ignoring all of the stuff that's like all of the FIFA Ultimate Team that's keeping EA afloat, all the live service stuff. Can we like skim all of this incredible quality off the top and go, thank you very much for all these great games?
Have the core gamers been able to carve out our own little bit and to protect it from the bullshit? Because they tried to do it with Battlefront 2, they failed. The pushback might actually be working. We're seeing more and more and more companies do sensible pro-consumer things. So it's all pretty damn good. Yeah, there you go. A gaming news video has ended, and we're vaguely happy about the state of video games. We would have saw that coming. Wow. All right, we'll see you in the next one.